Welcome back to yet another exciting episode of 60 Plus Uncensored. I'm your host, Seb Frey, and today I'm very thrilled to have Skip Frenzel with me here today. And you may not know Skip Frenzel, but here in the Bay Area in the senior real estate community, Skip is a local legend. Skip has a very rich history working as an airline pilot, and after a multi-decade career as an airline pilot, he reinvented himself in service to seniors. So in the senior community here in the Bay Area, he is an absolute rock star. So without further ado, let's meet Skip Frenzel. Skip, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope I can live up to all that. Jeez.
Jeez, I know. Well, no pressure, no pressure. Well, listen, some people may not know who you are, as incredible as that is. Can you tell us who is Skip Frenzel?
Well, where do I begin? Multifaceted. Um, my life has revolved around aviation. I've always wanted to fly. You know, when you're 6 years old, they ask you, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a cowboy or a fireman or a jet fighter pilot. Well, I kind of grew out of the cowboy and the fireman part, but I pursued it to an aviation career. I did the civilian route, had to pay for everything, build up my time mostly with flight instructing, got on with a regional carrier in the Baltimore, Washington area, flew for them for 9 months, and then I got on with the majors with the Flying Tiger line, which is a freight airline that flew all over the world. And then in '89 they got bought out by FedEx. So I retired, actually medically retired in 2005 from FedEx, and then during that time I got my real estate license in '77. So that makes me 48 years a realtor now, and I'm an emeritus, and I'm just starting to figure this out. But I'm really kind of retired from that and virtually everything else. Along the way, I became a certified financial planner. I'm licensed to sell long-term care insurance. I worked in a winery and a tasting room. What else? I don't know. That's all the stuff that they pay me for. But the flying was the really the passion and the essence of what I do, and it actually allowed me to do all this other stuff. So I'm very grateful for being able to complete that part of my life.
All right. Well, that's a lot to unpack there. So you started out and you were doing for a regional airline, and you were flying people, not packages, for the regional airline. Is that right?
Yeah, it was Henson Allegheny Commuter. They were based in Hagerstown, Maryland. It was part of the 12 regional airlines that Allegheny had at the time, and we flew Beech 99s, which is a twin turboprop 15-seater between Hagerstown, Baltimore, Washington, Salisbury, Maryland, Philadelphia, and DCA. And most of the flights were like 10 or 15 minutes long, not much. The longest was a half an hour from Baltimore to Philly. So we'd work a half a day with like 12 legs, which gave you a lot of takeoffs and landings. The experience was unbelievable. That part of the country can get some really weird weather. I worked with a bunch of really great people and had a good time, and I really valued that part of the of my life too. But again, that was something that was going to leapfrog me into the majors. It was almost the analogy of I was working with them. I was kind of like in Little League, and then all of a sudden now I got hired by the Yankees. So I went to the show, another analogy, and I served Flying Tigers from March 27th of '78 until June of 2005 when I retired from FedEx.
Well, so takeoff and landing, that's the best part, right? So if you're like taking off and landing every 15 to 30 minutes, that to me would be like that's the ideal dream job for a pilot, right? Because the rest of it maybe not so exciting.
Well, yeah, except for when like you get delayed. And if you're like 3 or 4 hours delayed, that's one thing. It's not a big deal because they reschedule. But if you're only like 10 or 15 minutes late, now you got to really hustle. There's stress. There's a problem, getting the people on and off the plane, getting the baggage done, getting the fuel and the servicing. If there's weather, that's going to complicate things. Air traffic control, on and on and on. So it was fun, but within reason, it was fun. So yeah.
Okay, so funnily enough, the first airline I ever flew on, Allegheny Airlines. Can you believe that?
All right.
Yep, and I flew on a Lockheed L-1011. Now, isn't the Lockheed L-1011 the one that had the engines fall off all the time?
Not that I can recall. No, it was a well, the L-1011 was a tri-motor jet similar to the DC-10, but I don't recall any accidents where the engines were falling off. But maybe I just didn't know.
Right. Well, I seem to recall back to this was like in what year was my first airplane ride? I went with my grandfather to, which actually is when my grandfather is kind of why I'm in the senior space now. I grew up with my grandfather. We lived in the same house, loved the guy, and he took me on my first airplane ride. And what year was that? I must have been like, I want to say like 1978. They still had like they had I remember this they had carpet like kind of like wasn't shag exactly but it was like some kind of green carpeting on the inside of the cabin and there was still a smoking section and so like people were smoking in part of the cabin and they weren't in the other part of the cabin and I was fine with it. I was super excited to be on that airplane. It was to me it was amazing. But I remember them telling me, oh, the Lockheed L-1011 or whatever, like there's been like, situations. So they say the engine fell off. I doubt it really actually fell off, right? But there was some kind of
Well,
the 787 today or something like that. I don't know.
yeah, they don't fall off. I mean, the press that's always what kills me is these experts in the press that tell you about the accident. The one I particularly like was there was the Aloha 737 that the top of the airplane came off and they lost a few passengers from it. Well, they reported that the roof came off of the airplane. I didn't know they had roofs, but yeah, they're always messing it up and not being accurate, and they're still doing it. And we in the biz like to point to it and laugh and say, "Oh, these guys are idiots." Why don't they get somebody like knows what they're doing on the board to help? So anyway,
Right. So I find it very interesting that you went from flying passengers to flying packages because I would have thought that like, hey, the cool job is like be like a long haul pilot, and then you have all these stewardesses that they were called back then, and you would go to these hotels in foreign exotic countries and just like have this great shore leave or whatever, and just live the life of Riley like you see in the TV and the movies. So
but
you
I
you
I did that. You're forgetting, there's not a difference between boxes and people in the back. It's the airline itself. Now, Flying Tigers actually was the product of the some of the pilots from the AVG group, the Flying Tigers, hence the name. And they started a little tiny airline out of LA. They were flying furniture and grapes, I think, and out of this, it's called a Bud Calistoga, which was tiny compared to what they have now. But the thing was, they expanded and created this airline for packages, similar to what FedEx was going to do later on. But the Robert Prescott, who started the airline, was one of the AVG pilots, and of course he knew Claire Chenault, the general that um, started the AVG group, and Chenault's wife was Chinese, and she had a lot of diplomatic connections. And when Tigers was expanding through her efforts, we got all the Asia routes. It was just incredible. We leapfrogged from these little smaller planes into the big four engine things, and you get paid by pounds and pods. So that was pretty good. And that, again, for me, a lot of people ask, well, why didn't you fly passengers instead of freight? And I'd tell them, well, I couldn't take the pay cut. So, the difference is that uh, we're doing the same thing that the trunk carriers, the legend carriers are doing, flying people across these routes. But, we've been doing it for years. And that's why FedEx bought us. They were trying to get the worldwide network, and they couldn't, because of all the red tape and problems. So they decided, okay, we'll just buy this other airline who's already got it, which they did. And then that's how I came in through the back door with FedEx. But we were worldwide. I flew all over the world. Great stories, great bunch of people, lots of experience. And by the way, we did have two airplanes with seats in them that we used for charter. Most of it was Mac, flying troops around, but we did the ice capades. We did the Hodge every year, which was quite an experience. We did the rice lift out of Vietnam during the war, and the boat people. We did an awful lot of passenger work too. I was lucky enough that I flew the very last leg of the very last passenger flight that at that time then FedEx had, that they stopped carrying passengers then. So we did do quite a bit of passenger work as well, but mainly it was for freight, both scheduled and charter. And the charters were really the interesting things. We were like, the renegades of the bunch. They'd give us a charter. There was a 5-man team. All the airplanes at the time, the DC-8 and the smaller 747s, had 3 crew members. They had the captain, co-pilot, and the engineer. So we had those 3. Then we had a mechanic, and there was a spare parts kit on board too, which is the equivalent of a trunk of a car. And then we had the charter rep, who was an interesting character. He would set everything up. He would, make sure the catering was done, the fueling, the on and off loads. And what was really amazing, he'd have this is just like out of a James Bond movie, he'd have an attaché case filled with cash, tons of money in there. He would never tell us how much it was, but he used that for paying for the services, and I imagine the bribes in some cases, because we went into some kind of iffy places, and these charters were really pretty remarkable, and eye-opening for me to see what the world was really like. So that was
So
fun.
you're flying for like basically Air America, right? So the CIA is chartering these planes
That,
or what?
it's like that's half of the airline. The other half is they have the regular scheduled service, the regular freight runs that they do, and that was kind of the mainstay of what their business was. But we also had the charter. We were lucky enough to get the Military Airlift Command charters, and we flew both people and material around for the military, and we were part of the craft, the civilian air, whatever they call it,
Rescue wing?
where the military can use your airplanes, for military purposes, and that happened actually after the war in Iraq, and we had to go over, and I guess when which war was it now? I can't even remember. The
So many wars.
Yeah, that's for sure. the bad guys set fire to all the oil rigs,
Oh, yeah, it was the original Gulf War. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had to take a bunch of equipment over there for them to cap it off and do some things, which was part of the craft program. And I remember clearly, we were at altitude, and when we were descending to come in for a landing, it was almost like we descended through a huge layer of fog. It was smoke, and you couldn't see more than a couple hundred feet in front of you with all that, and you could see the oil wells burning, off to the side as we'd go in. So it was kind of interesting to experience things like that.
Well, that sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
So these places where you're landing, where the guy with the cash is like paying off bribes or whatever, like what is this, like Cambodia you're flying into, or like are you flying to
Well,
like a
I mean,
gravel?
there's South American countries. There are places over in Southeast Asia. Well, we did fly into Russia and a lot of the kind of interesting hot spots around. But these are all kind of off the beaten track places that we needed to go. And we did an awful lot of other charter work too. Um, I remember once we did it was my leg was Montreal to Anchorage, and we were flying all these animals for a circus. And I called it Noah's Ark trip because they had like two of everything. They had giraffes in there that they had to be a certain age where they were big enough they could endure the long trip, but not tall enough that they could get into the wires and the superstructure of the thing. We did Siegfried and Roy's cats to the Osaka World Fair, and that's an interesting one too. That was quite a while ago when I first got hired with the company, and I didn't know who these guys were. And we get on the airplane, and there's these cats. They had you have a ladder that comes off the 747 to go up into the bubble. That's where we live and work, but all the other stuff's on the main deck. And the cages for the cats were right there at the ladder, and it was, well, what the heck's this? And we'd go up, and I got introduced to, I think it was Siegfried, and we talked a little bit and so forth, and he said, well, here's a couple of tickets to the show if you ever get to Las Vegas. And I went, yeah, okay, just another, goofy performer or whatever. I had no idea who he was. So, and ironically, I lost the tickets. Oh. Anyway, so the airline was a learning experience, obviously. I'd not even been out of my state, before I got on with the airlines. Now all of a sudden I'm flying international, and it was quite an eye-opening experience and a good learning experience for me.
Wow. So sounds like kind of like a flying circus there that you're operating
Oh,
around the world.
and that's just one of many. I mean, we did, for instance, we took cattle over to the well, Saudi Arabia and the countries around there, and they as soon as they get there, they'd all die. And we're, well, what the heck's going on? Well, they've got a veterinarian and consulted with him, and he says, well, the problem is that when they change their environment, it's too stressful for them and they die. So what we wound up doing was taking pregnant heifers over, and then the calves were born there, thinking that's their country, and they grew up and everything was fine. So we did racehorses, we did the orca whales, we did oh gosh, I can't even think. We'd have lots of these. There were huge containers. They were like 8 by 8 by 8, which looked like black grimy stuff in it. And what they were fingerling eels that we sent over to Japan, and they always eat eel, of course. So these were the eels that they spawned to for purposes for eating and a lot of things like that. So, the other one I liked too was we we took I guess it was a parts of a hangar to be built over to Jordan and came back. I think we came back to Ireland, and then they fed us another leg. We went to Israel with Hawk surface-to-air missiles. So they were using those missiles to shoot down the load that we just brought in, from the from the first group and into Jordan, and well, that's the other thing. We had to have two separate passports. We had to have one for Israel and one for the Arab countries because there'd be all kinds of problems, if you had the same passport with going into those the places that they are not friends with the country we went to.
So you had two U.S. passports?
Pardon me?
You had two U.S. passports?
Yeah, we did.
Is that allowed? I mean, how...
Oh yeah, it sure is. So, and the company takes care of everything. They fill out the forms, they send it in, and you get it in the mail, and everything's done for you. I had to renew my passport a couple years ago, and I had to do it myself. And oh my God, that was really hard work. So yeah, it's nice being pampered and treated.
Yeah, so speaking of pampering and treating, so the idea is you're a pilot and then you land and then they take you in a limo to like a 4-star hotel and you like hang out by the pool for like a couple of days as you whatever, and then you're drinking like a madman, I guess, and eating lobster and steak. Is that really what it's like, or is it at a Motel 6 out by the airport?
That's exactly it. That's
really?
Well, pretty close. Pretty close.
Really? Well, tell me.
Really good. We had a very strong union. We had a great relationship with management. The pilots and the management at Flying Tigers did, with not so much with FedEx, but yeah, they took care of us. So everything was all top notch. We'd have limousines waiting for us when we got there. We'd go to these 3 and 4 star hotels and interesting places. The catering was unbelievable. The food was really great. Yeah, it was really, and they paid me to do that. So,
so they would pay for your hotel room and the food and the catering, the limo and everything.
Yeah, they paid for all that, but then they'd pay me to do that. So, that kind of was the frosting on the cake, I guess.
So is the flight crew in the limo with you, or is the limo for the captain and first officer?
Oh, no, it's for all 3 of us. And then, well, even if we had a passenger trip, the flight attendants would be there too. But yeah, we all, we're all together as a crew for the duration of the flight, and most of the time that meant for the month, but not necessarily. And we all pretty much got along together. There were only a couple captains that I really didn't particularly care for, but it was okay. So
it's a crew of 3 flying a 747?
Well, this was the 100 and 200s, which are the early versions, and I call them the small 747s. Then from the 300 on up to the Dash 8, these are all now high tech. They're TVs. They're you're really playing Pac-Man instead of flying an airplane. And when I retired on the MD-11, which was the upgraded DC-10, and that also had a glass cockpit in all the high tech magic, as we called it. So yeah, it was. The thing is that as pilots, we like to hand fly as much as we can, but the autopilots are certainly there and useful, especially for long flights across the pond.
Well, I hear now that the planes don't even require pilots. I mean, you need a pilot for safety in case something goes wrong, but they can land and take off and fly themselves the whole way. Is that true or not true?
Not true. Well, partially true. The airplanes are set up for what they call Category 3 landing, which is 0-0 visibility. So the plane will automatically land itself without you even seeing the runway until you hit it, and come down. You can actually have the plane auto fly from the moment you line up on the runway, give takeoff power, rotate, flip the magic on, and from there on do the whole route, the approach, the landing, and everything. And then once you're on the ground, disengage your throttle and then taxi it off the runway. It has the capability of doing that, but again, pilots are, well, let's just say big egos, and they want to hand fly the airplane and play with it. I mean, that's what we started out with and how we got there to begin with, and that was kind of the fun of it. So, yeah, we do as much of that as we can.
Well, I would imagine though that if you're flying to like I don't know, like Japan or whatever, I mean that's a long time in the air. What are you doing to like keep yourself occupied that whole time? I mean, are you like constantly scanning
I
the
don't know if
gauges,
I
going
don't
like,
know.
pilot to tower, pilot? No, it's not like that, right? You're just basically trying
Yeah,
to stay awake,
no,
get some
no, there is
toothpicks in
no
your
tower out
eyelids.
there. Yeah, no, we keep busy. First of all, we have to monitor everything. There are checkpoints along the route that we have to report. We have to, check the fuel, our location. We send reports, on the weather, the uh, wind speed and the temperature at altitude and so forth. But other than that, we just do what anybody does when they're sitting with each other for 7 or 8 hours. We talk to each other. We can read. We can, you know, I guess they didn't have the Game Boys or anything by then, but um, it's pretty low key. And they say that a pilot's life is just hours and hours of boredom, punctuated with moments of terror, and that's kind of what we do. So when everything's working and everything's fine, then it's just real easy, and we just do everything that we were trained to do, and that's it.
So speaking of moments of terror, what's the most terrifying moment that you experienced there as a pilot?
Easy. I almost got in a wreck driving to the airport. So um,
That doesn't count.
in the plane, not so much. I mean, we're trained. We go to the simulator every 6 months and go through all the emergencies and abnormals and etc. We're tested. We get line checks in the real airplane on real flights and so forth. So there's not a whole lot that can be a problem. The one that I kind of remember was when I was on the DC-8. We were flying from San Francisco to Narita, and after we took off, we got engine fire alert. Well, okay, that we go through the checklist, we run through it, and it doesn't look like anything's abnormal. Come back and land, and the mechanics say, "Oh, it looks fine to me." And anyway, it was an indication problem, so they quote unquote fixed it. So we go back, we take off again, another engine alert. Oh no! All right, come back and land. So now it's we're running out of duty time. There you have to uh, make sure that the workday isn't too long for the legal requirements of the pilot. So at this point now we were like at that limit, and the captain just decided, well, it's not worth it. You guys sit here and fix it. But I mean, have two engine alerts like that, that could be a problem. Oh, one time we did, another San Francisco on the 747, we took off, and when we're en route, they say, well, it looks like you guys blew a tire on takeoff. I go, what? Yeah. Well, we didn't feel anything or have any indication of it, so it didn't make any sense to go back. We had to land, so went on to our destination. I think we were going to Anchorage then, and landed, and no problem. There was a blown tire, so they had to change the tires. And by the way, when one of the tires blows, they have to change the companion tire too. So they went ahead and did that.
Right. So how about like turbulence, right? Because like sometimes you're flying along an airplane, and like it jumps
Yep.
up or jumps down, like I
Yep.
mean, a lot of feet,
Well,
right?
it can be a problem, especially you've seen recently now, and I think this is another product of global warming and climate change, and the turbulence is getting bad. No, I've been through bad turbulence, but it's not a big deal. I mean, you pay good money to do that, at the amusement park, when you ride a roller coaster and stuff. So it doesn't really mean that much to us unless, some of the things start, flying around in the cockpit, which, isn't too cool. But we just, make sure that everything's put away, locked down, and we're strapped in. So we recognize it, but it's not an issue.
Well, there was that guy in Singapore Airlines who died like a year ago, right?
That's
He
what I'm
was,
saying. Yeah, but
yeah,
more than likely, he wasn't buckled in,
he
and
wasn't buckled in, right?
there are problems with every flight that I flew. There's never been a problem with turbulence, so that it created an injury or other kinds of problems.
So if you're flying around an airplane and like it's really turbulent and you're like bouncing up and down, like it seems like it's like shouldn't be that you're bouncing up and down that much. You're really saying that it's not really that scary. That I mean,
No,
like it's not like you're not really necessarily in any danger from that.
correct. Yeah.
So what should you be like worried about? Like lightning or like how would you know if you're a passenger on a plane that okay, now's the
You
time
won't
to like
believe this, but with the same captain, I was struck by lightning 3 times on an airplane. Uh, once over the Midwest, once out of L.A., and I can't remember where the third one was. But the funny thing, I, what are the chances of that? You get hit by lightning 3 times, but then it's with the same guy you're flying with. I
right.
mean, that's unbelievable. But no, they make sure that the airplane has the static wicks and everything. They can discharge the electricity that goes through the plane. However, we did have one with a passenger aircraft, and they saw this ball of light, go roaring down the cabin, as one of the flight attendants called it. I think he might have been exaggerating, but yeah, it can be kind of scary. But it doesn't happen that much.
So if you've been struck by lightning 3 times, how many times have you won the lottery?
None. Well,
Never.
apparently you have to buy a ticket or something like that to
You can't
do
win
it.
if you don't play. That is true.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's why I haven't done it. But
And I meant to buy a lottery ticket the other day when the prize was $1 billion. I don't think anybody won, so maybe I'll have to buy that next time.
there you
So
go.
yeah, so I have an interesting, fun story about airplanes. Since we're on the topic, this is my most exciting airplane trip ever. Well, actually, I have a few airplane trips that were pretty fun, but one of them was I used to work in Alaska on the well, I worked in Anchorage, but I had to go to the North Slope a few times, and we would fly a 737 from Anchorage to the North Slope, and then it would land on a gravel runway. Right? I didn't know you could land a jet on a gravel
Yeah.
runway, but apparently you can. And
Yeah.
so my first trip there, we landed, it was fine, and then it was time to go home like a few days later, and we got back on the plane, and they had that de-icing thing, right? And so they were icing from one wing to the other wing, and it was taking like a while. And the problem was is that they would start and then they would finish one wing and they would get to the other wing, and then by the time they finished the other wing, the first wing had iced up again. And so they
Mhm.
did that like a couple of times, and the captain said, well, it's just this is taking too long, it's not going to work, so we're going to try something different. And what he did was like he went to the end of the runway and he fired up the jets and he went as fast as he could, and he slammed on the brakes, and then that like supposedly shot the ice off the wing, and then he again like hit the gas again really fast, and then we took off like in a very steep climb, like in a very short period of time. And I was there. This happened to me. Is this like unsafe, or is this like like typical standard airplane stuff.
I've never heard of that happening before. That's kind of a pretty tall story, and I wouldn't believe that the captain would even think about doing that. That's not procedure. It's not really too safe to do it. And but this is bush piloting up there. They fly by a different set of rules, and you got to deal with what you have. Kind of like when we were on the charters. So you don't really have options in many cases, and you got to do what you got to do to make it happen.
Right.
So. Um,
Well, I mean, like, I guess, bush pilot, I always think is like a Cessna or something like that. I mean, like, this is a 737, right? I mean, it's,
Well, I mean, that's just the big end of the bush piloting, but yeah, and it wouldn't be a Cessna. It'd be like de Havilland Beaver or Skywagon or something like that. And a lot of times they'll have floats or skis on them too, and that's a completely different set of flying altogether. And these guys are the real pioneers and the real pilots because the piloting skills that they have are uniquely suited for that kind of a environment, and the weather up there, as you know, can be real nasty at times, and there's a lot of things that can happen. So,
yeah. So flying like a plane, like out to like the middle of Alaska seems to me like a fun thing to do, right? Land on pontoons in a lake in the
it
middle of
depends
nowhere.
on your personality, I guess. I mean, for some people it'd be fun, others it might not be. Like in real estate, you can say, well, you can get a house cleaner, or you can do it yourself. Well, some people will say, well, I really like cleaning the house. It's therapeutic for me, and I really love to do it. And you have somebody else, and oh man, that's a dirty chore. I don't want to do it. It's backbreaking, and so it depends, and same with that kind of a situation.
Yeah. Well, also when I lived in Alaska, I went down to Juneau a few times. Have you ever flown into Juneau?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, so you gotta like fly inside that inside strait, right? Like it's
Oh
like
yeah.
a narrow flight path, and that it always reminded me of like in Star Wars, like when they're going the first one, they're gonna blow up the Death Star, they're flying around inside the channel.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
like that. That was a lot. That was fun. Was that fun to fly that route into Juneau like that?
Well, it is. The really fun one was in Hong Kong Tai Airport before they built in the new one, which is now used to service Hong Kong. But this was right on the edge of the bay there, and the approach would have you come in, and there's like a reference, like a checkered board that you used visually to note, and then you did a 90-degree turn at like 800 feet and land. If you want to see some great flying, Google approaches at Kai Tak Airport, Hong Kong, and there are really some amazing things on there. Some of them not so good, some of them that did really a good job, but it was really a fun approach, when going into Hong Kong when you had to do that. There was a similar approach with the they call it the VOR approach into JFK. It was the Canarsie approach, which had a similar thing, but they rarely used that. Most of the time they had instrument landing service that they used there.
All the fun times flying, and so 2005 comes along. You have a medical issue, and you have to hang it up. Uh, so why didn't you just like get into like flight training or like I mean there must be all kinds of like airline adjacent industries for you to get into where you're not actually a pilot but still having fun with planes.
Well, if I wanted to get into training, I have to move to Memphis, which I wasn't keen on. There were other things, I actually kind of had a contingency plan in case I couldn't fly, and I did I did an aircraft dispatcher certificate. I got my BS in meteorology, which made it quite easy to get the dispatcher certificate, and also I had my flight engineer rating for the DC-8 and the 747, which they had three-man crews at that time. And the thing was that it looked like it was going to be too much of a headache and everything. I had my real estate license. I had my CFP designation. So I thought, well, I'll just make a career out of selling long-term care insurance and selling real estate. And I looked at that for a few months and had to keep going back into my savings and said, nah, this isn't good. Let me tell you, even after 48 years as being a realtor, I am the worst salesman you've ever seen. I cannot sell worth a damn. And that's why I got into other aspects of real estate, such as teaching the senior real estate specialist designation course, and why I got out of active real estate altogether, because I never was any good at it. So I figured, well, if this isn't working, got to find something else to do. And that's when I started looking at, well, if I'm doing long-term care insurance and working with seniors, I might as well just keep, working with them and doing things that I had been doing. And then everything started to shift in that direction, and I really specialized in working with seniors, and it was something I was good at, and something that allowed me to be kind of unique with, because not only was I dealing with real estate, but I was dealing with financial planning, and then I was dealing with working with seniors. So all three of those interconnected circles, I was in the middle there, where I can bring information and services to the clients about these other areas, which are not real estate related, but they're certainly life related, and people need to have information on that. So that's kind of how I got to be where I'm doing it now. And I got my SRES designation in 2006. Then I started teaching the class in 2012, and I've got 24 classes under my belt, and that's with over a year layoff with COVID. And this is kind of what I'm good at, so I'll just keep doing it until they get rid of me.
So becoming a realtor is like, it's kind of like a joke, right? I mean, like, okay, like I got fired, I got laid off, like, or whatever, like I'm going to go become a realtor, right? Like it's like the realtor is like the second or third career. But you said a license for 48 years, which means you had your license long before you stopped flying. Why did you get your license in the first place?
Well, a friend of mine was a real estate agent, and he had his license, and he, that was still wet behind the ears and wasn't making any money. And he says, well, you got to invest in real estate. And I go, how am I going to do that? Well, long story short, he sold me my first condo. It was a townhouse in Milpitas for 28 and a quarter, way back then in 75, I think it was. And I sold it a year later, almost to the day, for 50. And I go, wow, this is great. I'll just keep doing this. And then I realized, well, I need to learn a little bit more about it. So that's when I decided and he encouraged me to get the real estate license, which was kind of fun too, because at that point, I don't know if you remember Anthony's real estate school. They were at the San Jose airport. So I was teaching flight instruction on the other side at the Piper dealership. So whenever I have like an hour or two or something, I just drive over to the other side of the airport and either sit in on a class or take some practice exams. And I passed the test, and that was in February of 77 when I got the license then. So actually, I could have got the brokers sooner, but at that time I'd been hired by Tigers, and I was at the peak of a huge hiring spree that just catapulted us up in advancement. So at that time, I went from engineering the DC-8 to engineering the 747 in only 2 months with the company. I mean, this is what most of the people at United and American and stuff, finish their careers with. And here I am, like I said, I went to the show, And then I could have gone into co-pilot training, but I was working on my broker's license, so I put it off a little bit until I got the broker's in '79, and then went ahead and continued with the advancement in aviation. But then also, um, at that time, I was interested in making more money, and here I am, a new minted airline pilot. Your first year, you don't do so good. You're on probation, and the pay doesn't work that well. Oh, speaking of pay, let me back up one. The pay that I got for flying at Henson back east, $800 a month, and then you'll love this, $1.25 per day and per diem. That was supposed to buy your meals and everything. Anyway, so the advancement with Tigers, kind of put me in a good position. I was making more money. Thought, well, I gotta need to invest this. Well, one of the husband of one of my brokers was a stockbroker, and uh, he said, well, let me invest your money. Well, he took it and he put it in individual stocks, and they did okay. But then when the market turned south, there was a margin call. He had me buy it on margin, and I'm going, oh my God, I got to come up with money now.
Oh my God.
Otherwise, this is not the way to make money. So I fired him, and then I thought, well, I'll just do this on my own. I'll learn how to invest, and then I don't need him. I don't have to pay somebody to lose my money. So I enrolled in the Certified Financial Planner course, not thinking I'd ever use it. I just wanted the knowledge and the experience so that I can invest for myself. Well, long story short, it took 2 years to complete the course, and I did it. And then I thought, well, why don't I just take the exam just for the heck of it? And I did, and I passed. And then, well, okay, I got this. Now what am I going to do with it? And everybody just said, well, keep going, and that's when I decided, okay, I can make a living at this too. And I got my securities license, a Series 7 and 63, and then the life insurance license that allowed me to sell long-term care insurance. So at one point in my life, I had 4 jobs: airline pilot, real estate agent, financial planner, and I was working at the winery in the tasting room. So that kept me
That's
going.
a full plate.
Believe it or not, it wasn't, because I could spread that out. The flying was only about half of the month, and it was usually in one or two large chunks. So I had all these days in a row off. Well, I worked at the winery 5 days a month, which was kind of my sanity job, and then I just do the real estate and the financial planning whenever I had clients. So it worked out pretty well.
So, how many houses would you sell like in a year? I mean, were you like just one or 10 or?
Embarrassed to say it depends on the year. So, well, obviously for my CRS, I had to. What was the requirement? I forget now. That
10, I think.
five. Well, all right, 10 then. Well, anyway, I had to do them, and that really got me motivated to sell them. But that was my peak period, and there were years that I went without selling anything. And like I said, I just realized, I'm not good at being a salesman, no matter what it is. So
Well,
that's
it's a lot harder than it looks, I would say, to sell houses. Everyone thinks like, oh yeah, I'm going to become a realtor, right? Then many are called and few are chosen. I mean, the attrition rate is very high. I mean, I think that around here in the Bay Area, the average realtor sells one or two houses a year, right? And many sell zero, obviously.
yeah, I'm less than that now. So yeah,
Less
I
than that now.
do referrals, but yeah, well, after COVID, we got a big spike in it, and then I guess after the NAR lawsuit, we got a shaking of the tree and got a bunch of people out too. So,
I hear
uh,
a few people did leave the business. That's true. So, how did you get into the long-term care insurance game?
well, again, that was part of the collateral with the financial planning. And I thought, well, this makes sense. I'll be working with the elderly, and that'd be one of the tools that I could use in financial planning, which is still how I view it. And I just decided to go ahead. It wasn't that much to take the exam and do it. But the untold story is that you have to do continuing education credits for all these things. So I had to do them for real estate. I had to do them for insurance, for the CFP. I think that was all. I didn't have to do any for the winery. We just drank our way through that. But anyway, yeah, I did. And here again, I was no good at it. I only sold a few policies. There were a couple that fell in my lap accidentally. But yeah, so to this day, I'm licensed to sell, and I will if the opportunity arrives for the people that need it. But I don't push it. I don't make the hard sell or anything like that.
Right. So, I've been talking to a lot of people about how they pay for like long-term care, and everyone goes like, yeah, well, maybe you have long-term care insurance, right? But like, it turns out nobody really has long-term care insurance. So, is it even possible to get long-term care insurance, at least insurance that's worth having?
Well, absolutely it is. I mean, that's the whole idea. But the thing is, you have to realize that it's not cheap, and you have to be able to qualify for it, which means you have to be healthy. So if you have chronic conditions or advanced medical problems, you might not qualify to get it. So when people ask me, well, when should I get long-term care insurance? I tell them, do it as soon as you possibly can when you're young and healthy, because you might not be able to do it later on. That happened with me. I got my policy, it was a group policy through FedEx with MetLife, and I just snuck in under the bar, and a couple months later, I started all my operations. I've had 3 hip replacements, 3 rotator cuffs, and on and on and on. But right now, if I was applying, I wouldn't be able to qualify for it. So you've got to get it as long as you can.
So, you've had 3 hip replacements, but there's only 2 hips in the body.
Oh yeah, how about that? Well, it turns out on the right one, well, there was always complications. The left one was the first one I had, and 2 weeks after I had a blood clot, so we had to deal with that. Now I've got deep vein thrombosis. I have to wear a support stocking on that leg, and now until forever. Then the right one, when they did it, it was okay, and a couple weeks later, I had a staph infection there.
Oh my
So
God.
go back in and do it. Now that technically wasn't a hip replacement, but I went through the exact same thing that I did for the hip replacement. So I just tell everybody I've had 3 hip replacements and I'm from Mars. So,
Yikes, that sounds pretty horrible. I understand the hip replacement surgery is like an absolutely brutal surgery.
well, I don't know. I wasn't there. I mean, well, I guess I was, but I couldn't. They didn't. I don't know.
No, but the recovery from it is brutal.
Well, actually, it wasn't quite all that brutal, and I know a lot of people that had success with it, but for me, it just, I don't know, it started my health decline, and I'm at the point now where I'm not mobile very much. I've got, half of the chronic diseases, which probably pivoted from that part of my life. And, I got with my parents. I'm lucky for me. My mother's side of the family, they all died of strokes and heart attacks, 9 of them. So I'm inheriting the heart problem, which is my weakest link right now. And I'll bet you money, when I do go, it's going to be because of the heart. Then my father's side had arthritis. My uncle was just all crippled up with it, every single joint, and that's how I started. I got arthritis in the hips, which caused the replacements. I've got them in other parts. Right now, I've got one in my thumb, and I just live with it. But there's complications. So I'm not the young athletic Skip that I used to be years ago.
Right. Okay. So about the long-term care insurance, real quick. So, like, I don't have long-term care insurance, and as I hear all these
Uh,
horror stories from people about how great it is, I'm 54. I have like stage one hypertension. Is it possible for me to get long-term care insurance? And how much would that cost? Do you think roughly
well,
these days? Any?
possibly. I mean, yeah. I mean, the best thing to do is to fill out an application, submit it, and see, if they can approve you or not. That doesn't mean you have to buy it, but at least you can see if you do. There's a long list of things that do not allow you to get long-term care insurance, and you got to keep in mind that the health issues that they're looking at aren't the same thing as life insurance. If you have to apply for life insurance, they look at like your heart and other things where you could die and then they have to pay. The opposite's true with long-term care insurance. They're more worried about you living and they have to pay you years after you do that. So they have a different way of looking at it. People always ask me, well, how much does a long-term care insurance policy cost? Well, it depends. I use the analogy, well, how much does a car cost? Well, what kind of car? What are you looking at? A sports car? You're looking at a beater? You got the standard SUV or what? It all depends. The same with the long-term care insurance, and there's about 7 items that do determine the price of the premium that you're going to be paying, which amounts to how much you're going to be covering. But then you have various options. Again, like cars, you have accessories, and you have like a different elimination period, which is kind of like a deductible. Different daily benefit amounts, which how much they pay each day and for how long, how many years. So that times each other is your bucket of money, and they look at your lifestyle, your gender, your age, your health, on and on and on. So it's impossible to say how much a long-term care policy costs.
Well, what does like the average person pay? Is it like $1,000 a month, or
Well,
is
who's
it
the
like
average person?
me? I'm an average person. I'm
You're
54
average?
years old, slightly overweight. Stage one hypertension. But other than that, no real medical stuff yet. Am I
Well,
looking
I
like
don't
five
do
hundred
the
bucks a month?
underwriting, but it wouldn't be unreal to be paying between $8,000 and $12,000 a year for the policy.
Right. Okay.
They're not cheap. I mean, but then they're not. You're insuring something that isn't going to be cheap either if you have to go on claim. People always ask me, when's the best time to get a policy? I go, the day before you need it. That's a simple, and a no-brainer. That's exactly when the best time is. Well, when am I going to need it? Oh, well, now that's a different story.
Yeah.
So you got
Hard
to
to say.
decide, what. Again, I can't overemphasize this enough, but you got to get it when you're healthy, and you can still get it because who knows what can happen. I had an appointment with a guy that owned a restaurant not too far from me, and I used to go in and eat all the time, and we'd talk and we got to know each other, and he knew I sold long-term care insurance, and I told him the tax benefits of having it so that he could get it and he can cover his employees and be at a pretty substantial discount, if he was a sub S corp. And he says, okay, well let's get together and we'll talk about it. So I set up a date and I went into the restaurant and he wasn't there. I said, well, what happened to him? And he says, oh, he was out golfing the other day and he rolled his cart over and crushed his back. Well, now he has no way of being able to get the policy. And he was a young kid. So it doesn't really matter too much about the age and the health with that because you can always have an accident too. So the idea is you got to play the odds, and the sooner you can get it the better. Also, the sooner you get it the cheaper it's going to be then too. because you're spreading out premiums over a long period of time.
So I thought though that there's a cap, like at a certain age they won't give it to you anymore, like 80 years
It's in
old
the
or something.
90s though.
Oh, it's in the 90s.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you might wait a little bit for that.
Okay. All right. So I should probably look into it sooner rather than later. Although,
Well,
I
I
mean,
would advise you to look in it sooner rather
yeah,
than.
that's what everybody says, right? All these people I'm talking to. So, because I'm a CSA now, I'm a certified senior advisor, as you
Are
know.
you? Oh, well,
Oh,
congratulations.
thank you so much. It was, yeah, I mean, it was nothing really. But you yourself are a certified senior advisor. But not only that, you won the Service to Senior Award. Did you not?
Yeah, I won that in 2013, along the same year that I won the Outstanding Service Award with SRES.
So what
So I
did you
got both
do?
of those.
What did you do to win those awards?
Well, I had to pay an awful lot of money. I mean, just
Yeah, suitcases
no,
under
I
the
just
table.
I filled out an application, sent it in, and that was all I did. I mean,
Really?
yeah, I
But you
had to
must have
compete
said
with
like
other people,
you must
but
have said that you did something to deserve it, right? I mean, like you can't just say, "Hey, I'm Skip,"
well, I would hope
like.
so. Yeah, I mean
Well,
that's the whole point of the awards. But yeah, I did. So and also, well, I got my CSA in 2012, I think, and the following year, 2013, I joined the editorial board for our award-winning quarterly journal, cleverly called the CSA Journal. And me, along with the other people on the board, find topics and authors to write about for the publication, and it's really known within the industry, and we truly have won several awards with it. So it's something to be proud of, and I think I'm the oldest serving member, and probably in age as well as the longest serving too. But it's kind of a fun job. We meet monthly, and I have to chase down all these topics and authors then too.
right. Okay. So I don't think it's going to surprise anybody to learn that you yourself are a senior, and you could probably be kicking back on a beach in the Bahamas these days. What keeps you going? Like, why are you still being of service to seniors? At this point in your life, I mean, you could just be
Well,
kicking back and
because
drinking mai tais all day long.
well, it's because I don't play golf and I don't own an RV and I'm not married to bother somebody, so I might as well do something. I mean, no, it really, I'm giving back to the community. It's something that I'm good at. It's something that I enjoy doing. The thing that I like doing is propelling all these other agents into doing the same thing, similar to you with this podcast, with all the other things that you're doing. You're just getting started, but you're a rising star. I sense that it's so easy to see, and you're going to be going places with this. So the idea is that if I can transfer my knowledge and resources to other people, then they can help their clients. The 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 end result of the services that are needed, and that's really what I'm trying to do. Because I need the help. I'm experiencing all that stuff that I taught, and it's firsthand. I'm not just reading it out of a book. I'm living it.
So you
So
want to
yeah.
you want to pay it forward. So that is certainly admirable. And I know you have some health challenges, but you have such a sunny disposition, really. I mean, like to me, like you always seem like kind of upbeat and cheerful. So that means you have a good mindset. How do you keep your mindset positive?
Drugs, lots of
Drugs.
no.
Oh,
I don't know. It's just appreciate what I got. I just found out yesterday, as a matter of fact, the instructor that I've been using, well, ever since I got the long-term care insurance, well, the insurance part of that, every 2 years you have to do the CE, take the class for 8 hours, do the partnership class for 8 hours, and he was always been my instructor. He's fighting cancer now, and he only has like a month. And I just started to realize, and he's younger than me, and you step back and you look, and you read in the paper and see on the news all these people that are dying that are younger than me, And you just really wonder, well, I am truly blessed with what I've got and what I'm doing, and I just I just want to make use of my life and not just coast along and sit on the sofa watching soaps, eating bonbons with my hair up in curlers and slippery, little feathery slipperies on. Anyway, so
Although
yeah, this is my life. This is what I do. I've been very busy today. I had 4 articles to approve for the journal. We're building a new website for Julie's SRES meetup group, and that's taken a lot of time. Plus, now all of a sudden, my external hard drive decides it doesn't want to talk to the computer, and I can't back up my weekly backups that I've been doing, and I'm fighting that challenge. And then, oh yeah, I gotta eat sometime, so I better figure what I'm gonna be fixing to eat. So yeah, it's a full day. So that's how I go.
so maybe just having that sense of purpose maybe is what keeps you really with your mindset good and your mind still
I think
sharp.
so. I think
Yeah,
so. Yeah.
have a purpose, and that's so great because like a lot of my clients, they are seniors, but they never really like seem like they are seniors to me because a lot of
Yeah.
them they're still out there working. They're not just. I mean, most of them are not really retired. Maybe a lot of them could retire, but they don't. They have things they want to do. They have things they enjoy doing. They have things that they're passionate about, and they seem to
Well,
be full of
that's
life.
that's just it. The word passion, I think, really sums it up. I mean, for me, there was no question about it that the aviation was my passion, and the thing is that I filled that square in. I lived the life. I did as much as I could. I look back and have fond memories, and that's fine. So now I can go on with my next chapter, and I can just transfer that to the work that I'm doing right now. But you have to have a purpose. You have to have a reason for doing it, and that makes all the difference in the world.
All right, right on. Well, Skip, thank you so much for joining me today on 60 Plus Uncensored. I
Okay.
really
So
appreciate it. And
how much am I going to get paid for this now, or did you?
oh, unfortunately, it's an uncompensated appearance.
What?
Unfortunately, yeah,
Oh,
I know, but I'm sure you're going to get a lot of long-term care insurance business out of it. So there's that.
I'm sure. Yeah, the phone's going to be ringing off the hook. I can tell.
Well, a funny thing happened. I recorded a video with a realtor down in San Diego because I'm doing this series of relocation videos like from moving from the Bay Area to where? Well, he's in San Diego, so I was moving from the Bay Area to Carlsbad. And we recorded it just like a week ago. He called me up today and he said that somebody in Carlsbad saw the video, said, "You seem like a nice guy," had him come over and he listed his house in Carlsbad. And that was just like we recorded it like 10 days ago. So, like
No
maybe 10 days
kidding.
from now, you'll have a slew of like long-term care insurance, policies hitting your desk, right? It could happen. It's that kind of 60 plus
Oh, I'm
uncensored
sure.
magic.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens, but I'm fine the way I am now, even if I don't get any business for long-term care insurance. But
Well, if anybody needs it, go by all means call Skip or go to your website. It's what's this? It's agapeLTC.com. Is that how people would
well,
go to
there's two
like?
websites. I have the real estate one, which is re at agapeltc.com, and agape is spelled like agape. It's the Greek, one of the 4 Greek words for love, and the long-term care is info at agapeltc.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm not on Facebook. I don't do text. I don't have a cell phone that I actively use. I'm a dinosaur with technology, and but I still have the computer and the phone, so you can always reach me if you need to on do a Google search and I'll show up somewhere. So yeah,
All right. So what's your phone number in case people want to call you?
408-984-6661.
All right. Terrific. Okay. So if anybody needs long-term care insurance, by all means, call Skip and he will hook you up.
And don't put me on another spam list. I'm getting dozens of calls already.
Oh, I get so many every day. All right, Skip. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it, and I
Thanks
will
for
catch you on the
having me.
flip side.
I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
All right, that's a wrap for this episode of 60 Plus Uncensored. Huge thanks to Skip Frenzel for setting the tone with such honesty and insight. Now, if you like this episode, do me a favor, and then do Skip a favor. Hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and then share it with someone you know who needs to hear it. And by the way, if you know someone over 60 who's still out there doing big things, living boldly, working with purpose, or aging on their own terms, I would love to hear from you. Just reach out at team60plus.com or join the conversation at 60 Plus Uncensored on Reddit. I'm Seb Frey, and this is 60 Plus Uncensored, because as we're learning, life after 60 isn't the end, it's just getting good.
Subscribe now.